This is a 2023 Genesis Electrified GV70, a brand new version of the compact crossover SUV that Genesis introduced for the 2022 model year. It's also the third EV from the Korean premium brand, coming after the electrified G80 sedan and the electric-only GV60 SUV. And it gets more power than the electrified G80 sedan, in fact, sharing the same powertrain as the Genesis GV60. And you gotta trust me when I say this, that is definitely a good thing. This particular Genesis Electrified GV70 is painted in Seville Silver, which is a $575 premium paint. However, at least at launch, at least right now, every paint that Genesis offers for the GV70 is a premium paint. So plan on spending at least $575 on top of the base price. My test car also has the Prestige package, which effectively makes it the highest of two trims offered. Not spending the $6,800 to get this package makes it an electrified GV70 Advanced, by the way. Oh, and you might not be able to get one of these. Genesis is currently only selling it at select dealerships across 22 different states. I'm listing the states right now so you can check those out. You know, we are approaching half of the states here, but still, it might be quite far away from you. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I'm available worldwide, baby! I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s. And I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for an electrified GV70 Advanced is $66,425. That includes the $575 for the paint. And my test car with the Prestige package and the paint costs $74,350. Okay, with that, now's a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail. It's got some neat tricks. Styling wise, this is a big departure from the Genesis GV60, which I reviewed a couple months ago in February. This looks much like its internal combustion engine brother, the non-electrified GV70. But underneath the skin, this and the GV60 are basically twins. Let's take a closer look. From the front, this is instantly recognizable as a Genesis, similar shaped grille, obviously the big wing logo right here, the bifurcated headlights right here, two layers here and here. But most of the grille is actually blanked out. This is all metal right here. There's no real opening. Also, there's a pretty obvious clue that this is an electric vehicle. Genesis calls this a hidden charge port, and man, I have to say, they were right. When you look lower, you do get actual grille down here and a nice small little lip spoiler right here, as well as a functional vent right here to act as an air curtain to block air getting trapped under the front wheel well and creating a high pressure zone. But most importantly, this is authentically Genesis, and I think a very pretty front end. And I'm sure you got to be wondering, it's an EV, is there a frunk? Wait for it. Yes, there is a frunk, barely. You just get a little bit of space here, and this goes a little bit deeper, about as big as my hand down there. Not much space at all, but it is more than nothing, and you do have a spot for a tire refill kit, an inflation kit right there. Also, there are a couple cool things to see under here. Look at these two beefy struts between the shock tower and the front of the car to give it some strength, and I'm sure that helps aid the feel of front end. This is your fuse box, which is nice and easy to grab, and windshield washer fluid goes right there. Looking at the car in profile, you see that this actually has a pretty darn swoopy shape. Overhangs are pretty small in front, and you get a little bit more in back, so it is kind of a rear leaning looking car. Certainly no issue with that for me. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now so you can check those out, and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. And I have to say that I think that there is a lot going on here. Generally it all works for me, but it does I do get a sense that a little bit less would be more here. I do like this character line that starts just beneath the hood here and then goes right through the side view mirror cover onto the middle of the taillights. I do like this kind of swoopy shape here for the final glass right here behind the seat pillar. And I think this polished metal around the window trim is a nice touch, as is this two-tone of the silver with the black for the side view mirror cover. There is another piece of polished metal down here, and there's a curve right at the base of the door, and there's a bit of a fender flare out here, and you've got more polished metal on the roof for the roof rails, which does cover up the view of your panoramic moonroof, which is right there and standard. I think it's a nice shape overall. I just wish there was a little bit less to distract you from the overall shape, which is generally quite nice. The electrified Genesis GV70 gets 20-inch wheels across the board, and they fill the wheel wells nicely, and you do still get just enough sidewall to work with to not have too punishing a ride. I do enjoy that. Also, I quite like these big and beefy white painted calipers right here. I think that's a nice touch, looks elegant. Behind the front wheel is a very common strut front suspension, and that suits me fine as long as it's tuned well. And in back, another 20-inch wheel, same size wheel, and a multi-link suspension. Looking at the Genesis GV70 from the back, we've got this pretty big roof-mounted spoiler right here for all that needed downforce, and then it just kind of has this pretty steeply raked rear windshield to curve into the rest of the liftgate right here. It's a generally good shape, and again, just like the headlights, a nice piece of body to separate the two strips of taillight right there. This to me is a little bit simpler, a little bit more elegant, a little bit cleaner. And we do have a bit more polished metal beneath that. And of course, no worry about fake tailpipes or anything like that because there are no tailpipes. There's also a fair amount of cargo room. You get 29 cubic feet of cargo room behind the second row. You also have a little bit of extra room when you lift this up. There are hooks at four corners to tie things down. And on the passenger side, you do have a little net here to help hold things in place and AC power right here. And if you don't need to carry more than one passenger and need more cargo room, of course, that is easy to do. And a couple quick pulls of a lever reveals 57 cubic feet of storage and space for two, and I think plenty of space for my bike, but let's find out. Oh yeah, plenty of space. Let's check out the inside. This is, after all, a compact SUV, so space back here is relative. I have the front seat set to be comfortable for me right now, and it looks like I'm going to have okay seat room. The seat bottoms are decently high, so I should have okay thigh support, but there are a couple things I want to show you before I get in. The seat back is currently set to its second most upright position, but you can adjust it manually right here to many different spots. I'll show you the most lean back. So there you go. You can relax a fair amount in the second row of the GV70 if you wish. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and I have knee room, less than an inch though. It is a bit pinched, and the seat bottoms are a tiny bit lower than I hoped. I hoped I'd get an extra inch out of it, so I do have more than a 90-degree bend in my knees. That said, the seat material is very soft and plush, and I do have headroom. I actually have a good inch of headroom, and that's despite there being this panoramic moonroof right here. So that's the trade-off. Also, the GV70 comes standard with 3-zone climate control, but because I have the Prestige package, I have heated rear seats for the outbound seats. Also, I have rear sunshades as well. How lovely. The passenger side rear passenger can move the front passenger seat forward and more upright to give much more legroom if they prefer. And finally, yes, of course, we do have an armrest with cup holders. What luxury! Very nice two-tone interior to look at here. We have the usual controls right on the door, as well as 2-position seat memory right there. We do have a premium Lexicon stereo system here, as well as many controls on the seat, including some massage function. Never turn that down. You can adjust both the tilt and telescope of the steering electrically right there. And you do have a couple buttons to the left of the steering wheel right there. Because this is the Prestige package, we have this very nice quilted Napa leather on the seat. Quilting right there, that's lovely. However, it is standard equipment that the front seats are both heated and ventilated. Push button start is right here. And there is your 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster right there. And right next to that is a 14.5 center console touchscreen, very wide screen, just kind of placed right on top of the dash. Looks lovely. There are a lot of options you get because of the Prestige package. One of them is having a head-up display right there. I'll go ahead and just put a list of all the stuff you get on the Prestige pack so you know what's included. Aside from the head-up display, a highlight for me is the heated steering wheel right there. You do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it is wired. Since we're here, those are the first 2 zones of your 3-zone climate control, and you can see the heated and ventilated seat options right there. Just below that, you do have ports to plug in things for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and also a wireless smartphone charger right there, which my phone is currently taking advantage of. You do get a couple of cup holders and plenty of controls right here. Speaking of controls, the steering wheel itself is a nice fat rim, really nice fat rim actually, and has plenty of controls for both media and cruise control functions right there. But also, this button right down here, boost. With this button, at the push of a button, you can boost your horsepower count. I'll talk about that just a little bit more when we get to the powertrain. Oh, also real quick, I should mention, you do have paddle shifters even though you do not have a transmission. They handle how much battery regeneration you get just by lifting off the accelerator. You reduce it with the paddle on the right, you add to it with the paddle on the left. There are 4 different levels. You see them right here. That's the minimum level, which is just like coasting, and from there you can go to level 1, 2, 3, and what Genesis and Hyundai call iPedal, which you can see right there, indicates that you can basically one pedal drive the Genesis GV70, and it works pretty darn well. I'll show you when we get back to the drive. Back to the center console, you do have separate controls for media and volume. Here is a rotary dial to use for the center console touchscreen if you'd rather not touch it. And beneath that, another rotary dial to function as the prindle. And past that, we do have lower center console storage right there. And that does include another 12-volt port right there. Looking up, we have some functions for lights, as well as another view of this panoramic moonroof. And yes, it does have an electrically closing privacy panel. Lovely. And since we're up here, here's another look at that micro suede headliner that's part of the Prestige package that I showed you on that list. All right, drive modes. You set them right here. You get Eco, Comfort, Sport, and My mode. Also, if you hold the button down, you get a 5th mode, Snow. And these drive modes are not just powertrain adjustments. You do have adjustable shock absorbers in this car, which makes me pretty excited to try this thing out. Let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Like I said at the top, it's basically the exact same powertrain as the Genesis GV60, and it is a very good powertrain. You get 2 electric motors, 1 on each axle, that combine to give you 429 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, and that is instantaneous, very stout, very omnipresent electric motor torque. It is very, very good. And of course, with a motor on each axle, that means it is all-wheel drive. And do you remember that little boost button I showed you on the steering wheel? That's worth 10 seconds of an extra 54 horsepower. That means you get 483 horsepower to play with in this electric compact SUV. That is a very healthy number and quite enjoyable if you're someone like me. It being the exact same powertrain as the Genesis GV60 means it does have the same 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, and that means it basically delivers the same amount of range, 236 miles, which these days I'll call respectable. Here's the good news. This system can be charged at up to 350 kilowatts. That means you can go from 10% to 80% charge in 18 minutes. And if you do end up buying a Genesis GV70, part of the package includes 3 years of complimentary 30-minute charging sessions at Electrify America, which is a nice incentive because those high-speed charging stations are not cheap. Of course, you can charge this at home on a level 2 charger, 220 volt charger. It'll take about 7 hours to go from 10% to 100% charge. And Genesis actually provided a lot of different numbers for a lot of different charging times. I'm going to go ahead and put those up on the screen right now. Speaking of charging, of course, this will charge itself at some while you're braking. When you lift off the accelerator, you can adjust it that it automatically charges the battery up a bit and slows the vehicle down instead of using the actual brakes. And I showed you those shift paddles. I currently have it set to the highest one, I-pedal, which lets you one pedal drive, which I really like. So in that setting, I'll go ahead and lift off the accelerator. And you can see that is a good amount of deceleration. We're slowing down pretty quickly. Now, it's certainly not an emergency stop, but I would say that's like a quarter of a G of decel. So that would be easy to one pedal drive with that kind of level of deceleration. And yes, it will come to a complete stop when you do that. Each level is, a solid step down from that if you prefer less deceleration, but I really like that analog feel of being able to speed up and slow down with just one pedal in one nice smooth motion. But if you go to level 0, that is basically coasting. And just to show you, I'll quickly do it, lifting off the throttle, and yeah, nothing. Another thing that's unique to the Genesis, at least in every car I've tested, is that the drive mode makes a big difference in the amount of instant response you get when you accelerate the GV70. This was just like the GV60 as well. So right now, I'm in the comfort drive mode, and if I floor the accelerator, there's a little bit of a ramp up, but you get really good response and pretty darn good pull. But if I then put it into sport driving mode, first of all, the suspension firms up a little bit, which I appreciate. And when I hit the accelerator now, it's instantaneous. And it is a lot of acceleration. You get that fantastic shove into the back of the seat and you're just off. There is no delay. Now, I'm going to go the other way. If you go all the way to the eco driving mode and you floor the accelerator, it is a slow ramp up, build up. It really resists wanting to give you full acceleration because that does take more energy. And in eco mode, it really does try to conserve the battery. Really fascinating. Oftentimes, the drive modes make little differences to the throttle map, speed up transmission shifts, if you have a transmission, things like that. But in the Genesis, both the GV60 and GV70, being in different drive modes really affects the electric powertrain's behavior. I think that's cool. Generally speaking, I think this powertrain is fantastic. It is epically quick to accelerate, good power, pretty darn efficient, and operates very smoothly, very quietly. Really fantastic. Plus, I think that Genesis did a really good job to put the charge port in a nice hidden spot, easy to access, very clever. And I mentioned efficiency. Well, pretty darn good. You get 98 miles to the gallon equivalent in the city, 83 miles to the gallon equivalent on the interstate, 91 combined. But of course, while fuel economy, and especially for an EV, range is really important, it's not nearly as much fun as accelerating, especially when you have a boost button on your steering wheel. That is a tempting thing to push. Anyway, of course I had to test it. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the GV70, the electrified GV70 in sport driving mode. And right before I get to that line, I will hit the boost button. See how this thing feels. Okay. Coming to a complete stop. Boost button on. Harden the accelerator. Oh, man. Oh, God. Wow. Oh, man. Oh, wow. 483 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque, of electric instantaneous torque. Woo! I don't care how heavy this thing is. It is quick. The Genesis Electrified GV70. Whew! Fantastic acceleration. Whew! It's yeah, it's good. So, how does this car ride? Fantastic. This is a really well isolated cabin. It offers a really smooth, very comfortable ride when you're in the comfort drive mode. And the amenities offered in this car, standard amenities, heated and ventilated seats, for example, are really nice. And the Prestige package definitely improves upon that. The Napa leather is really nice car to look at visually, and just a lot of really comfortable features for both the first and second row. And all of that is true on roads like this or the interstate. Yes, I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, time for a quick stint on the interstate, see how this GV70 feels on the road. I do have it back in the comfort driving mode, and I don't think I'll use boost mode, but we'll see. But we also have a lot of driving aids, including highway driving assist. I will, of course, try that out. And I'll go ahead and put the full list on the screen for you to check out. Plus, see how it is generally in terms of wind and road noise. Okay, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. And it is right around rush hour, so there is a decent amount of traffic. I do have highway driving assist on, and there's a curve coming up, so I'm going to take my hands off the wheel. And yeah, it's doing a really good job to slowly bend into the curve and stay pretty well centered in the lane. It's doing a really good job there. The highway driving assist with the lane keeping assist is working really well. It did not warn me, but I'm putting my hands back on the wheel proactively, you could say. Also, let me quickly show you the instrument cluster because it has some good information. Turn on the turn signal. The right turn signal shows you the camera on the right side, and the left turn signal shows you the camera on the left side, getting rid of blind spots. Also, I'm quite happy with road and wind noise in this car. Really impressed. Now, you can hear a little bit of wind noise, some buffeting around the A-pillar and the side view mirror, but it is not loud and it is not very intrusive. And the fact that there's no engine noise at all means that the wind noise being as quiet as it is means that this is a really well isolated cabin. Also, the suspension is plenty soft for these kinds of conditions. We're pretty much floating over little bumps and heaves in the road, and that's all very pleasant. If anything, I think it's a touch too soft. I wish we're one level firmer. Also, you know, I've got a seat massage going on right now, so I'm very comfortable. Range is tracking really well as well. So as long as you don't have any range anxiety, this is a fantastic road trip car. You know, you've got that really wide center console touchscreen to use. You have a lot of functions, the heated and ventilated seats, all kinds of ports to plug in devices, and the behavior on the road is really nice. This is properly premium, this GV70. Very good road trip car, very good interstate car. You can tow in the Genesis Electrified GV70 if you want to. Obviously, that's going to hurt range if you do, but it is rated to tow up to 3,500 pounds, which is really a decent number. Genesis does say that the trailer needs to have trailer brakes, but it's nice to know you have that option, especially if you need to tow something around in the city. So, what do we have in this Genesis Electrified GV70? I think we have just a fantastic premium compact crossover SUV. Going electric ups that premium level just a little bit because you can't get any smoother than an electric motor. You can't get any quieter than an electric motor. And with this powertrain, it'd be hard to get much faster as well. Standard all-wheel drive is nice too. Plus, you get that little frunk, a little bit of extra space. So hey, why not? You also get the ability to power things from the battery. just like other Hyundai and Genesis product, this has the vehicle to load system, which means you can plug in an outlet and run things off of this battery pack if you need to. That could be really nice for tailgating or camping or things like that. But unlike the Genesis GV60, this basically looks like any other premium compact SUV. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't look quirky in any way. It just looks like a nice vehicle. And it is a nice vehicle. A really nice vehicle. It just happens to be one without a tailpipe. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you showed me by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so helps me out quite a lot. Also, if something like the electrified Genesis GV70 appeals to you, something that's not quite the same, but brand new and really compelling in its own right, is the 2024 Mazda CX-90 PHEV. So that does have an engine. It is a plug-in hybrid vehicle, but it does offer a lot of the benefits of being an electrified vehicle, and then has the gasoline engine as a backup. Also, there's a decent amount of overlap in terms of comfort and amenities. And from there, I've reviewed a whole bunch of stuff by now. Something's gonna pop up on the screen next to me. Hopefully it's something you're interested in, and if you do watch it, I definitely hope you like it. Okay, goodbye for now.